Happy Monday. So I hope you all had a great 4th of July week. I personally did. Now back to the market, right? It's been a nice week. So for the last time we spoke about, which was 2 weeks ago, right? We were talking about how this level was support and how it was likely going to have a bounce. And you can see that we pretty much bounced off this area. So obviously I did not, update the market, but so far what's happening, right? We know that the market did make, let's remove this, right? You can see that the market did make a new high, right? So the criteria for a wave 5 has been satisfied, but there's no clarity, right? That this was a wave 5. This could just as easily, right, still be in this wave 4. The thing with wave 4s are they're very, very tricky, right? You may think that we're in a bounce, but immediately you kind of have the C wave to the downside, right? It's kind of when you know you're still kind of in that wave 4. But yeah, as you can see here, personally, this is either a wave C, right? Wave C back into this demand zone, right? In a wave 4, which would again imply the same wave 5 higher in a wave 3 before it comes down again before the final wave 5, right? That's scenario number 1. And number 2 could be the fact that, right, let me remove this. Didn't I tell you that it satisfied the minimum criteria? The reason I bring that up is it could mean that we are kind of in a bigger wave 4, right? Which would imply that in that case, right, the support won't hold. If we are in a bigger wave 4, then as you can see here, we do have a gap to fill, right? So when we come down, right, to come down to above 4,300 before it has that wave 5 bounce. So those are kind of the two scenarios that I am, looking at in the market. And let's fib this, right? Fib this from the top to bottom, pretty much. Yeah, you can see we rejected at the 1.8 fib level, right? And I bring this here to this point and fib it all the way to the top. You can see that the first level of support is at 4403 and the second level is at that gap fill area I was talking about. So that would kind of be the second scenario, right? Where a pullback is still healthy for a move higher. And so now you may ask me, like, hey, you showed me all the bearish, like bullish scenarios. Like, do you have a bearish one? And yeah, I have been consistent in what I've been saying, right? Is I think this rally is gonna end up with another move to the downside, right? And as you can see here, if I zoom out, bigger picture, and people on Twitter keep asking me this, but I keep repeating it, right? So I mean, like at some point, like you guys got to just pick up on the cues, right? Just because a week is super bullish doesn't mean I'm not bearish, like long term, right? It just means that we're still in the process of completing this. But yeah, this is kind of what I'm looking at, right? Bigger picture, I am still looking for that major move down to about 3,000. But yeah, I still don't think we're done here, right? As I've discussed, I still think that any pullback will still get bought higher. So yeah, I mean, we could, right? Now you may ask me like, hey, is there a chance we've topped? Yes, absolutely, right? Absolutely, there's a chance we've topped. If I go into this chart, right, you'll be able to see that this is the trend line holding as resistance. And so far, we've rejected it. So this, right, this could easily be where wave B has ended, right? Before we have that massive wave C to 3,000 I was talking about. But yeah, you would need more confirmation, right? We haven't even, you can see this is the trend line that supported the rally from mid-March, right? And we haven't even broken that trend line. So at least, right? At least try to break 4,300 before you can ask me, like, are you bearish? Like, I'm not willing to be bearish yet. Like, I am still bearish long term into the next year, couple of years, where I do think recession will hit. I haven't changed this, right? I've been saying this since 2022 that we are going to get a recession. So I still believe that. I just don't think that we're done yet. I still see a bunch of upside left, given that July and August are heavy, bullish months, and September generally is very, very bearish. So that would kind of be a good timeline to kind of sell off. But yeah, it is certainly possible to have top, but I still, I would like to see a lot more confirmation before I say that. And as you can see here on QQQ, when I told you, right, scenario number 1, that this was an ABC. The reason I think that is if you look on QQQ and IWM, you can see that we did not break a prior high. So generally, right, when prior highs are not broken, you tend to be in an ABC kind of move, right? Which is why I think that, you know, that any pullback will likely get bought and we continue higher. So, I mean, I'm just looking to buy the dip, right? Still, it's been working since Jan. There's no reason for it not to work, right? But you have to buy enough time as well. Or if you buy stock, you're good, right? So, I mean, I'm still on the same page, right? I do have some levels like 4,300 on SPX. Let's say 4,280, right? On SPX and on Qs, I genuinely would need 350 to break. Like above that, like I think the dip will get bought. So yeah, these are kind of the different reasons why I feel that this is just a temporary blip in the radar that continues to go higher. And another good reason on why I believe that, right? We look at the chart of IWM, for example, you'll be able to see that we have been within the larger pennant, right? We had a failed breakout, but surprisingly, it did manage to have a pretty good bounce, right? But again, you can see that we rejected supply again and we bounced again. So yeah, it's still holding the breakout, right? As long as it continues to hold the breakout, then it certainly has more upside, which again implies the rest of the indexes will likely follow. Again, we look at the dollar, for example, you can see that bigger picture, right? We broke down from this megaphone pattern. Now we've kind of just been sideways in the market, and this is not a very bullish picture. There certainly has been rejecting every resistance level, right? And I certainly could see it, you know, continue to come back to the downside. And the yields did not actually turn back down, right? You can see here, I expected a rejection of this 3.8, and we actually pushed up to 4%. So here's the thing, right? Let's talk about TLT as well, right? As you can see on this chart of TLT, we do have a heavy demand zone, right? In this area for TLT. So I do think that even though, right, I want to imply that this is a nice consolidation. This is a bull flag. This has every reason, right? If it can sustain over 4%, this has every reason to push up to 5.4%, right? I mean, I have no reason to tell you it shouldn't, but I don't know. For some reason, I keep thinking this is going to reject. We're going to come back down before you have that move up to 5.3%. And the reason for that is, again, I look at this chart of TLT, right? This kind of action usually is of a corrective wave, right? I mean, you could kind of have a triangle in a waveform, but it doesn't really make sense. What will make sense if this is a W, right? This is a WXY, right? In an ABC where it's in its final downside leg before it kind of has that, you know, wave C rally to the upside. I am seeing a lot of call flow for September, for October. So this could make sense, which is why I do think the yields, again, if TLT goes up, I mean, they're kind of correlated, right? So the yields coming down will likely push TLT up. So yeah, that's what I think. But again, I'm not saying I'm going to be right in this case, right? It's just a hypothesis, and I am watching, right? We continue to predict that, then obviously TLT is going to continue to sell off. So yeah, that's just kind of what I wanted to touch up upon. Let's look at this week's watch list, right? The first one I have is Microsoft. Again, the reason for that is, let's go to a smaller time frame, right? Yeah, let's go to a smaller time frame. We look at the chart of Microsoft, go to the 4-hour chart, give it a second or two to load. Yeah, as you can see here, right? Again, this is, I'm looking for very, very short-term downside on Microsoft, and all my lines will load soon. But yeah, as you can see here, right? It's kind of a bear flag. We kind of gap down, right, in Microsoft. So, and you can see here, this is a level of demand, right? And the point of the weekly watch list is to give you both bearish and bullish plays. So you're prepared for either side of the market. And this is kind of what I'm trying to do, right? So yeah, if Microsoft bounces and fails this 334, all right, I mean, bigger picture also, you can see that this is kind of the trend line, right, that held as support. So I personally like the ABC, right? If we're still in the C wave, then it very likely will come down to 320. So the reason is if it breaks 335, right? If it bounces and breaks 335, you can see it doesn't really have demand, right? So below 335, my target's at 328 and 320. So it's kind of why I have Microsoft puts. I'm looking for a short-term downside to get bought up, right? Going into the week. So maybe CPI, it bounces. So that's why I have Microsoft. The next one I have is AFRM. Again, the reason for that is kind of looks like a consolidation pattern, right? As you can see here, let me zoom out of AFRM. Damn, I'm not home yet, so my traveling Wi-Fi is still pretty weak, so just bear with me. Yeah, as you can see here, right, as my chart continues to load, well, let's give it 2 more minutes. Come on. Yeah, there we go. As you can see here, right, this is the upper trend line, right, on AFRM. And this is, again, a lower trend line and a mid trend line that AFRM has broken out of. So technically, it's kind of a breakout pattern, right? It doesn't generally tend to win and fail, right? So again, IPOs generally I don't like to wave them, but I'm just kind of just drawing something to kind of give it direction, right? So don't take my wave seriously on AFRM, but what I'm trying to say is if weakness does continue, right, into Wednesday, I do think that it gets bought up, right? Watch this $12 level. If AFRM sinks to 12, it should, be able to push up to the top of the channel. And alternatively, right, if you're looking for a bullish level to go long above, I'd say 14.5. If AFRM can reverse bullishly and break up, let's say 15, right? Because I'd like to see this volume profile being taken out, 15.2. Either we bounce off of 12 or I think it breaks 15.2 and continues higher. So it's kind of why I have AFRM calls on this week's watch list. LLY is a lot more, I'd say, easier to be bearish about, right? Just because of how much of a straight line it's been. And as you can see here, every time it's pushed to the top of the channel, it's had a massive rejection. And if we zoom in, right, you'll be able to see that it finished with the shooting star, then it finished with an inside weak bearish engulfing kind of a candle. So if we do break the low at 450, it's broken this channel as well. So it should, be able to come down to 440, 430, and eventually 400. So yeah, I mean, I still do have this as a wave 4, like the rest of the market, before we proceed higher for that wave 5. And last stock that I have on this week's watch list is JMIA. Again, a stock that's been sold off, right? And as you can see here, it's technically broken out. So if it can, right, pick up some momentum and break over 3.9, let's say $4, it should be able to push up to $6 and even $10, right, in a few weeks. So JMIA does look good. Again, I don't like to wave newer IPOs, right? But just for direction, it would make sense to move something like this. All right, guys, thank you so much. Oh yeah, wait, before I finish, let's touch on the wicks. Yeah, I mean, so far so good, right? Pushed down to 13, had an oversold bounce, still headed to $10. Thank you so much. Have a great day.